Hey friends, Dr. Terry Rouse, and here we are again for the second night of Snuggle Money Story Time, the 12 Nights of Books. So tonight we're reading a book that was written by a former student from Chestnut Hill College of mine. Her name is Lakia Guy, and the title of her book is Charity's Big Dreams. So let's get started right away so that we can share this great story. Give me one sec. And here we go. Charity's Big Dreams. In Norristown, a small town in Pennsylvania, there was a little girl named Charity. She was a cheerful girl with orange wavy hair and smooth brown skin, soft as silk. She was always happy and wanted to play. Charity was the highlight of everyone's day. She was just like all the other kids at school. She played with her friends, studied hard, and could not wait for the weekends to come. One windy autumn day at the start of the new school year, Charity's social studies teacher, Mrs. Jones, had an important announcement. "Listen up, class," she said as they walked through the door. "This year's grades and test results are very important because 3 of the top students in each class will go on a school trip to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., as a reward. There, we will visit museums, have private tours, and get the chance to stay in a nice hotel. It is a great opportunity, and I want everyone to try and be better this year by completing your classwork and homework assignments. All right?" "Yes, Mrs. Jones," said the class. Charity was particularly excited because she loved to study history. She was very interested in how her ancestors lived and how countries were formed. Her desk was always filled with sticky notes and index cards with highlighted information about how history is so much different from her life now. The moment she came home, Charity told her parents the good news. After eating dinner, she immediately went up to her bedroom to read up on the next few chapters in her textbook. There was no way she was going to miss the Washington, D.C. trip. A few weeks went by and the first test came up. Charity studied hard for it a week before, and there was nothing that she did not know. The night before, she stayed up a bit later than usual to read over the material one last time. During the night, there was a short power outage, and the electric alarm clock was reset. The next morning, Charity's mom overslept, and Charity did too. Half an hour late after their wake-up time, Charity's eyes opened up and she started to panic. She got dressed quickly and her mom drove her to school as fast as she could. While they were in the car driving to school, Charity told her mom that she was stressed and being late would make her do bad on the test. "Charity, I have confidence that you will do well on today's test. You will do fine. Just persevere, sweetheart." "What does persevere mean, Mom?" "Perseverance means to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. It means that even though you're going to be late to school, you will do your best to be chosen for the field trip." "Yes, I will try my best. I've been studying really hard for this test," Charity said. The exam had already started and Charity was late. She apologized and quickly got in her seat. Mrs. Jones knew how important this was for Charity, so she quickly took out a Post-it note and gave it to Charity. "Don't panic. I'm sure you can do it in half the given time," said Mrs. Jones, comforted Charity. Half the time, she thought? I'm never going to finish in time. The girl turned to her friend Caleb and saw that he had already written a whole page. She started to panic, and her brain froze. Charity began to write, but her thoughts were drifting toward the clock. She checked every single minute, and it only stressed her out even more. Quickly, the time passed, and Charity had answered just a bit more than half of the questions. Mrs. Jones gave her a few extra minutes, but that was all she was able to do. I'm sorry, Charity. I have to take the test now, she said. It's okay, Mrs. Jones. I understand, Charity said, and sadly looked at the ground. She was very unhappy, thinking she ruined every chance she had of going to the state capitol. The students had a few more classes, but Charity could not wait to go home. The next day, Mrs. Jones gave out the test results, and it went exactly as Charity expected. A few of her friends got the highest marks, and she was not even close. Mrs. Jones called Charity to her desk to ask her a few questions, and she answered each question correctly. The teacher put down the highest grades for her quizzes, classwork, and homework assignments, but she had to take the test into consideration too. At the end of the class, there was some time left, so Mrs. Jones told the students to read up on the next chapter, so it will be easier for them the next day. Charity quietly looked at her desk. Mrs. Jones went over to her. What's wrong, Charity? Why aren't you reading? It is U.S. history. You love that, she said. What's the point, Mrs. Jones? I was late and ruined my chances to go to Washington, D.C. A few of my classmates will always get the highest points. I'll never catch up. And I knew all the questions, Charity tearfully explained. I know you did, Charity, but that is not a good reason to give up. If you give up now, there's absolutely no way you'll be able to go. But if you work hard, like you've been doing this year, you'll still have a chance to go. Remember, work extra hard and hope for the best. Any chance is better than no chance at all, right? Mrs. Jones advised her. Yes, I guess you're right, said Charity. Work as hard as you can, and I promise you will go, all right? Yes, Charity said. Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Charity took her teacher's advice and studied as much as she could. She studied every night and even at the local library every weekend. She got 100% on her classwork and homework. She even took extracurricular activities throughout the whole school year. On the last day, Mrs. Jones came into class and said, "Good morning, class. I have the names of the students who will be going with me on the trip to Washington, D.C. First, Anthony. Second, Lisa. And for third place, we have a tie. Can you believe it? Charity and Caleb, you are both going." Charity couldn't believe it. She was the happiest girl on the planet. She jumped up and down and hugged all her friends. Mrs. Jones smiled at her, and Charity went to thank her. She knew that without her, she would never have had the chance to go on the trip of her dreams. She went home excited to tell her parents, "Mom, Dad, guess what? I won the chance to go on the field trip to Washington, D.C. with my teacher, Mrs. Jones," Charity exclaimed. "See, I told you that you will do just fine if you work hard and persevere," said her mom. "That's great, baby girl. We are so proud of you and your achievement," said her dad. "I'm so excited. I did exactly what you told me to, work hard and do my best." Lakia T. Guy is not your typical author of children's books. Because of her experiences as a teacher, she has the ability to incorporate relevant real-world messages that positively impact the lives of her readers. Lakia is passionate about boosting children's self-esteem by creating characters in her stories that allow them to witness people that look like them, engaging in positive behaviors and overcoming obstacles. She highlights family experiences that feature her own children as the main characters within the context of her present social studies classroom. Lakia tackles pertinent topics such as bullying, perseverance, good manners, and positive character traits that teach valuable life lessons to her readers. She has taught in private and public school systems for over 15 years. Lakia is a social studies teacher for the Norristown Area School District. She currently resides in Norristown with her husband, Ruben, and her 3 children. In her spare time, she enjoys writing, roller skating, and teaching coupon classes. So thank you for joining me for Charities. Big dreams. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, this is the perfect opportunity for you to go to drterryrouse.com/SBBC. Use the promo code SBBC23 for your promotional discount for the holidays. And I will see you again here tomorrow night for another edition of Snuggle Bunny Storytime. Thanks for being here, everybody.